Aboro, Aboye, Abosheshe, and welcome to the Ifá Orisha discussion program. Today, we are going to look at one of the verses or the essay of Eji Ogbe. Right? And before I start, I would normally start off by offering an Oríkì. Alright, and the Oríkì that I'm going to use today is going to be the same essay Ifá that I'm going to discuss. Alright, so it is going to be Eji Ogbe. Alright, and it reads, "Let us not run the world hurriedly. Let us not grasp at the rope of wealth impatiently. What should be treated with mature judgment, let us not treat in a fit of temper. Whenever we arrive at a cool place, let us rest sufficiently well. Let us give prolonged attention to the future, and then let us give due regards to the consequences of things. And that is on account to our sleeping, right? Or end or death, all right? So that is the opening Oríkì. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give a full exposition of this Oríkì. And I'm going to give a practical exposition that would show us, for those of us who are unaware of the necessary advice or guidance that Ifá provides. Right? But I'm going to give the exposition between this translation and another translation that I was taught by my Olowo. And I'm going to now give the translation that I was given. It goes like this. Never engage the world hurriedly. Do not grasp at the rope of wealth impatiently. That which should be treated with mature judgment, let us not deal with in a state of uncontrolled passion. When we arrive at a cool place, let us rest fully. Let us give continual attention to the future, and let us give deep consideration to the consequences of things, and this because of our eventual passing. All right, that is how it was taught to me. All right, so today we are going to discuss this essay one stage at a time. We are not going to give any complicated interpretation applying the rule of 5. But what we are going to do is we are going to look at it for what it is worth at the most basic level. The first line in the verse says, "Let us not engage the world hurriedly." All right? And I would now give an example. If you're traveling or driving along in the country, and you're driving through a terrain that you are unfamiliar with, generally, what a person would do is they would drive at a reasonable speed because they are unfamiliar with the terrain and the territory. They don't know what to expect. They don't know if a cow is going to come running out across the street, or a deer, or a wild animal. So generally what they would do is they would cruise along very slowly and they would try to appreciate the environment as they move along. Okay? In like manner, when this essay says, let us not engage the world hurriedly, what it is admonishing us to do is when we are dealing with things concerning our lives, we must take our time, we must give things due consideration, and we must also scrutinize and observe things during our engagement with them. This is how, when opportunities present itself before us, we are able to see them properly. All right, so the first line tells us we must take our time, we must examine things properly, and we must exercise good judgment. That's the very first line. The second line says, let us not grasp at the rope of wealth impatiently. All right? Here, in this book of Odus, it says, let us not grasp at the rope of wealth impatiently. It's the same exact line, word for word. That's how I was taught this line. And the key to not grasping at wealth greedily or impatiently is that in so doing, a lot of times, firstly, such wealth is never sustainable. What do I mean by it's never sustainable? If a person wants to have lasting wealth, it is advised that you take your time and you accumulate wealth over a period of time. Why is that? Generally, the whole idea of managing your affairs requires a measure of patience, attention, and the application of some measure of wisdom or knowledge. So the objective is not just to grab wealth as quick as you could, because a lot of times, because of that speed at which it is done, it is not thought out properly. It's not very well considered. And the other things that comes with that wealth, a lot of times, are undesirable when it is acquired hastily. All right? The third line in the essay Ifá says, what should be treated with mature judgment, let us not deal with in a state of uncontrolled passion. Now, having a short temper, having a short fuse, is a quality that generally leads individuals into a lot of trouble. Challenges life would always offer them. But the way we respond to the challenges of life is what would determine whether we would master them and be able to move forward. So what this third line is admonishing us to do is to apply mature judgment, sound reasoning, prudence, wisdom to all situations, particularly those that offers us a challenge. Do not be impatient. So far we've been told do not be in a hurry, as well as we were told do not go grabbing at wealth. The fourth line states that whenever we arrive at a cool place, that we should take a full rest. Every situation, every circumstance in life has to be dealt with. But there must be a period of time when a person would need to refresh themselves, when they would need the body and the mind to recuperate and regenerate. That period is normally the period of rest. Many of us don't know how to do this well, because a lot of times when we lie down, all the affairs of the world come rushing through our mind. Well, this essay Ifá suggests that we always, at the suitable time, take a break from all of our affairs. The teaching of Ifá, which is what we're discussing here, is suggesting that we always find appropriate periods where we rest fully. All right? Now, this particular line emphasizes on rest, because the next thing we're going to look at, there is also a relationship between the two. All right? It says, let us give prolonged attention to the future. All right? That's one part of the line. Let us give prolonged attention to the future. Now, this also is a period too where you get a certain amount of physical rest. But at that point, the mental rest is no more. So now what you're looking at this point is we are contemplating the things that we would have to do in the future. So it's a period of physical rest, but it is a time of mental activity, because what we are doing is we are contemplating, we are thinking about the things that we need to do and to attend to. All right? The second part of that line tells us that we must give due regards to the consequences of things. So while the first part of the line says that we must contemplate our actions, we must sit and think of what we are going to do. The second part goes into a different area of thought. Not only now are we thinking about what we are going to do, but we are being advised in Eji Ogbe that we must also think about what is going to be the effects of what we do. So it is saying, not only the first part of the line says that we must give prolonged attention, the second part talks about giving deep consideration of the effects that it would have, of the consequence that it would have. Both the short-term consequence and the long-term consequence. So that brings into line the whole discussion of a person seeking to be satisfied through a particular action, but sometimes having enough discipline to hold oneself back. So we're talking about applying wisdom and seeking to do something when the time is correct. All right? And the last line brings everything together, and it explains that you are going to do all of the above things because of our eventual passing. That's how I was taught. The line here says that is on account of our sleeping, end, or death. Now, this particular line, even though it brings everything together, it focuses on something that is very, very important. Because all of the things that we would have applied that is advised the consequences of it we would face. But there is another important aspect of when we transition. The examples that we set for our children and for those who come after us, they would follow. So even when you are long gone, when you have passed, when you have transitioned, what you have taught by examples to those who come after you is going to be lived through them. So therefore, this last part that talk about doing all these things because of our eventual passing, we are talking about legacy building. That's one aspect of it. The other thing is if you have applied these guidelines, it would have allowed you to live a fulfilled life where you've exercised wisdom. The result of which is all the forms of Iri. Because this is what Eji Ogbe represents. So it is very important that one, we set a good example for those after us to follow. Two, for us to achieve success and to live a fulfilled life. All right, I'm not saying that everyone has to be a millionaire. What I am saying is the purpose for which you came, as long as you are able to fulfill it successfully, establish a good legacy, be a good example, and leave Ire for your children to inherit. This Ifá is saying that all will be well with you, because that is the essence of Eji Ogbe. Eji Ogbe implies everything that is good, everything that is positive, everything that is wholesome, and everything that is in perfect alignment with a person's destiny and purpose. All right, and with that, I would like to close today's program, and I'm going to once more recite the Oríkì in English. The first line is, let us not engage the world hurriedly. The second line is, let us not grasp at the rope of wealth impatiently. Third line, that which should be treated with mature judgment, let us not deal with in a state of uncontrolled passion. The next line is, when we arrive at a cool place, let us rest fully. Next line, at least the next part of the line, is, let us give continuous attention to the future. Then the other part of that line is, let us give deep consideration to the consequences of things. And the last line is, and this because of our eventual passing. Okay, folks, this is an Ifá that we should learn, and we should also apply it to our lives. If we apply these same principles have carryover values. If you apply it to your relationship, to your business, and to your life in general, you would reap the good reward of such practices. All right? Again, I would like to thank everyone for being here or for stopping in. Remember, you do good for yourself. You do bad for yourself. All right? May Olodumare bless you. bless your family, bless your children, bless your household, bless your community, and by extension, may he bless our nation. All right, Odabo, and see you next week.